At times there is a lot of confusion as to where to study from and how to go about it. So what is the study material required? What all you need in order to prepare, in order to start studying for the FRM exams? Let's understand that. So one is your studying part and one is your practice part. So when you're looking at studying, we have, what are the options we have? One is the institute curriculum. So when you register with the Garp Institute, you have the books provided by the institute in a digital copy. And so we'll also have to understand which ones do we need in a soft copy format and which ones do we need in a hard copy format, that we need printed proper books. So when looking at the institute curriculum, we generally do not want to study from the institute curriculum because institute's curriculum is going to be, as in the institute's textbooks are going to be a little lengthy, and they will have little more examples and more content than what is required. Now what happens is the institute divides, basically the institute gives you all the chapters and every single chapter has got some headings. So say for example, if there are, let's say 20 chapters or the 50-60 chapters, let's say in the first chapter, let's say you have the subheading explain this, explain that, heading A, heading B, heading C. So let's say in 10 pages you have 12 subheadings. So what the institute does is that it defines the entire outline of the chapter. Understand the idea first. So let's say there are about 60-70 chapters in the curriculum. Now in every single chapter, the institute will give you the subheadings. Say suppose I will take up a chapter, let's say time value of money. So the first subheading is describe the interest rate, required rate, opportunity cost, etc. And then you have 1 page or 1.5 pages of content. Then the second subheading, learn how to calculate or calculate the present value, future value of normal cash flows. Then the third subheading, then you have a page or so. Then you have a third subheading, calculate loan amortization schedule, etc. So now what happens is every single chapter, every single reading as we call it, will have different subheadings defined. That is known as learning outcome statement, LOS. So each of the subheadings within the chapter is known as an LOS, that is a learning outcome statement. So for each of the LOSs, then the content is defined, because see, it's a global exam. So on a global exam, you cannot have questions turning up out of syllabus and all. So the questions, the content, the curriculum has to be very, very clearly defined. So that is why every single chapter is defined. Within the chapter, all the subheadings are defined. And if say for example an LOS tells you calculate something, that means sums can come on it. If something tells you describe this, in that case sums will not come on it, because it is only about description or understanding the concept and not a numerical in it. So that is how clearly the learning outcome statements are defined, so that there is no confusion, because these are global exams being conducted, as I told you. So now what happens is the institute curriculum is a little too extensive, and that is why we prefer not to study from the institute curriculum. Although there is at times, with the FRM curriculum syllabus that changes every year. In FRM part 1 generally there are less changes, and FRM level 2 part 2 there is more changes. Especially there is one subject in FRM part 2 that is called current issues. So I'll discuss the syllabus and all separately, but current issues subject changes every year. So 1 year you're studying LIBOR and all, LIBOR being replaced, 1 year you're studying COVID, 1 year you're studying Bitcoin, 1 year you're studying machine learning, etc. So whatever is happening in the current economy, based on that the current issue subject changes. So at times a few chapters we might be studying from the institute material, but other than that we are not studying from institute material. For this reason we prefer to study from Schweizer books. So Schweizer textbooks basically will have exactly the same identical chapters. It will have exactly all the LOSs exactly defined in the institute's material. So the LOS in the institute material and the LOS in Schweizer material is the same. The content within the chapter is condensed, as in it is simplified, it is summarized, simplified, shortened, etc. And anything that is extra beyond the syllabus, beyond the learning outcome statement, which might be in the institute curriculum, that is removed from the Schweizer textbooks. So when I'm teaching in my class, I'm going to be referring to the Schweizer textbooks for most of the chapters. There could be a few chapters that might be referred to institute curriculum, but not much. And also there could be a few chapters wherein I don't refer to any of the books and I provide my notes for those chapters, because that could be better or easier to understand or more comprehensive. Obviously, Schweizer, the content is relatively easier, as in it is made in a summary format, etc. And it will not be having derivation of formulas and the details and all. So anything extra that is needed as compared to whatever is given in Schweizer, I will take care of that in the class. So either I'll make you write that or I'll be providing you the notes for it, depending on how small or big it is. So say for example, there is one place where 2 points are missing, let's say. So those 2 points extra I'll make you mark in the margin itself. So I will not make you write entire paragraphs after paragraphs of notes or something. I don't do that. But for retention, a little bit of writing is also important. So say for example, I'll make you write notes like if interest rate goes up, then inflation rate goes down, this goes up, this goes down. So I'll be making these kind of notes, so with arrows or formulas, etc. So these things I'm going to be discussing in class and making you write. Formulas are there, calculations are there, examples could be there, sums could be there. So that is according to the topic and chapter, and I decide that. So basically what we've understood is that for studying part, we might be doing a few chapters from the institute material, but 90% we'll be doing most of the chapters from Schweizer material, and class notes we are going to be doing, I'll be providing you for whatever chapters. I do not want you to refer any book. Even after we do a chapter with my class notes, you are supposed to be going through the Schweizer, flipping through the pages, you will find nothing is left at all. So therefore, that will not be a problem for you. So now whether we order, so when you register with the institute, you automatically are going to be getting a digital print of this. You're automatically going to be getting a digital print of this, a digital copy of this. Sorry, you don't need a printed version. It is very expensive when you order the printed version. Second, when we are looking at the Schweizer material, I would ask you to have physical copy for this. You need books in order to write, in order to scribble and all of that. So I would recommend you sincerely to have physical books. So 4 or 5 books depending on part 1 or part 2 will be required. Class notes I'll be sending you, and if when I'm doing the classes, there could be a lot of things that I might be making you write. So most of it could be in the Schweizer textbook itself depending on the chapter, or maybe certain chapters like derivatives and all that, you need to write it separately, because there is a lot where we are moving from one graph to the other. So there is a series of graphs, let's say in portfolio. So in that case, you will make the graphs with me, because only when you make the graph, write the formula, these things are important. So we'll not be writing paragraphs as I told you, but maybe pointers, extra things that is supposed to be known beyond Schweizer, which is required, all those things. So you don't have to study the institute curriculum, but with Schweizer, if I'm doing anything extra that is required, you will have to do that. You can't skip that. So you don't have to do so much, because it becomes lengthy, as I told you, and a little difficult. And the concepts and all, derivation of formulas in most places, understanding the concept and all, going into the depth, obviously it's very important. Just reading Schweizer is absolutely not going to get you anywhere. So that is very, very important. So anyway, so what do we need? We need the institute material. When you register with the institute, you get a digital copy, physical copy not needed at all. Schweizer, we'll be having the physical copy where we study from. Class notes, I'll send it to you. Next, when you're looking at the practice part, so Schweizer, end of chapter question, EOC is end of chapter. So behind every chapter, there are 5-7 questions provided in the Schweizer textbooks. The standard of those questions is very, very poor. It is absolutely not going to do any good. So we call it Dudh Bhat question, if you understand. So it's just that we're not even counting them as in practice. So you anyway solve that just for the sake of it. That is it. Practice books are going to be provided to you, so that you will have to practice. So in all probability, you are going to be doing this in physical copy itself. So this will be provided to you. You are supposed to be practicing from these questions. When you're looking at the institute end of chapter questions, that is the institute material, the institute books. Behind each chapter, there are quite a few good questions given. Institute material has a lot of printing error in part 1 in terms of the answers provided, and the questions are of good quality, no doubt. And when you're looking at part 2 curriculum, solutions are not provided, which becomes a bit of a challenge. So you'll have to go through the questions and see if you understand or if you know the answer, and that's about it, because we don't have answers in most of the questions in part 2. But part 1 answers are provided. So institute end of chapter questions, I want you to solve it online. So you have the computer screen in front of you, laptop or computer, you are seeing the question over here. You will scribble your rough work in the copy, in your notes copy, rough book or something, and then you will make your answer, and then you will solve the answer and check whether you got the correct answer or not. The reason I'm asking you to do this is because when you read online, your reading speed goes down, and the exams have become online now. So because the exams are online, it is very important that you practice a portion of your curriculum online. That is the reason why I'm still not recommending, although institute end of chapters you have to practice all the chapters, but I'm not recommending you to do it through a physical copy. You rather stick to a digital copy. That is going to be important. Maybe for working professionals who feel that you want to have a print of this particular material, or because of solving questions and you want to save time on that, and you're not comfortable, and you anyways have good online reading speed because of your work part, then it's okay, you can get a physical copy of this one. The institute's physical copy is going to be quite expensive though. Other than that, what I've seen is I really liked this app. Actually, a student of mine had recommended and had sent me all the notes in that, and I really loved it. And then I got that for myself also. There is this GoodNote app and a Notability app. GoodNote and Notability. So this is, I'm not very fond of Apple at all, but somehow I like this app a lot. And there are people who are comfortable. I still like pen and paper, but it becomes convenient to carry all the books, so many books and so much notes and all together, and refer so quickly. So if you want, if there are people who are interested, you can use those two apps. They're quite good. I like GoodNote better than Notability, because I had to also research, because I work with notes and books and all the time. So anyways, not necessary. It's not a necessary expenditure. It's an absolute expense. So anyways, if you have, you can use, just in case. Next is your Institute EOC. So Institute EOC, but in the exam you will not have tablet or something to write your rough work on. So actually, if you're practicing, the best way to practice is computer mein you have your questions, and the rough work you're doing on copy pen, copy pen, notebook and a pen, not copy. So that's what you're doing. Next is GARP past year papers. Now what happens is, when you're looking at the last 7, 8, 10 years worth of papers, GARP Institute's mock papers and all that has been issued by the institute over the years. So we had to filter a lot out in terms of getting the questions which is still relevant. For part 1 it is still making sense, but part 2, because the syllabus has changed so drastically over the last year, so GARP past year papers is only relevant for part 1 exams, not for part 2 exams as such. And there is just a limited number of questions over here when you're looking at all the chapters. Now Schweizer Online, so they have some online questions or something that you can access, but again it will not do much good basically. So you'll have to, your practice resources, this is also digital as I told you. This is physical because you're anyways buying the practice books, so that is there. So behind the chapter questions, practice books provided to you, institute end of chapter, digital book only, GARP only for part 1. This is going to be physically available. And Schweizer Online questions, this is going to be digital set of questions, and this is also released by the institute for only part 1 students. Not too many questions, not very good standard questions. So the most important resource I would say that remains to be your this one and this one. This one more for part 1, less for part 2, because you don't have solution. But this is the most important resource that you have for your practice. Right? Schweizer Online also not that great a deal. Now when you're looking at the mock paper, the Schweizer book provides you with one mock paper over here with two mock papers in one single thin book. So 200 questions papers for FRM part 1. For part 2 you'll have 80 questions worth of 2 papers. We can solve that at the end. So mock I will discuss with you towards the end. Institute also provides a mock paper, but generally I've seen the institute has provided a single mock paper for the last 2-3 years. The same mock paper they have been releasing. So I'm not very happy with the amount of content in terms of practice that the institute is providing. But the institute mock paper gives us a good idea in terms of the level of standard of questions for the exam. There could be other mock papers also, so whatever be the resources will be taken care of. Now what do you need to buy, or how do you need to go about it? So there is a calculator, Texas Instrument BA 2+, and there is another version BA 2+ Professional. These are the only 2 calculators that you're allowed to use. In the exam they have another HP calculator or something that you can use, but all the students always use this calculator, and calculator details are separately provided. The description and all, you'll find the coordinators number and all. You can take more details about the calculator and all that from her. So Texas Instrument BA 2+ or Professional, both are fine. Most of the students use BA 2+ only. That costs around 2000 or something like that, 2700 or so, and 2+ Professional costs somewhere around 4000 rupees plus, and there is barely any difference in metal body and all of that. So anyways, most 90% students, I would say 99% students rather, would be using BA 2+, not BA 2+ Professional. Print and soft copy I told you. So when you come to looking at ordering and all of that, institute digital copy, when you register with the institute, you are anyways going to get it. So you don't have to pay separately. The soft copy books are included when you are registering with the institute. You don't have to buy physical copy. These Schweizer provides 4 to 5 books and practice book. One practice book, one mock book actually, I would not call it practice book. And this you will have to order. So this you have to order, and this you have to order. Rest everything is taken care of by us when you're taking the classes. only the Schweizer practice books, 4 textbooks, 4 or 5 depending on level 1 or 2, 1 mock book, 1 practice book they provide, that and the calculator you have to order, rest everything is going to be taken care of. The cost of material is very, very nominal when you're looking at all these books and all. You can simply ping the coordinator, she'll give you the details about ordering calculator and books and all that. Because Schweizer is not our textbook, so we do not order Schweizer, we do not provide Schweizer books, and the calculator is something that we do not provide. So that you can take it yourself. And next is class resources. So obviously there'll be much more, so you have a lecture guide and mentor notes and all of those things. So there is a lecture that I've discussed in about the lectures, about the classes. So order of study, in which order you have to study. You cannot do chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 because there's a lot of interrelationships between chapters. Also I try to alternate theory, practical and retention issues chapter, where you have retention issues towards the end. Then the importance level of chapter, the chapter is what kind, how you need to study, how much important is the practice for that particular chapter. Lecture guide is there where every single lecture I have discussed, you know, in this lecture this is what we've taught and this is how you need to go about it. Then how to study, how to practice, how to revise, how to attempt the exam, the most important lecture towards the end when you're taking the exam as to your exam strategy. There is no shortcut, I'm not giving any shortcuts and tricks and all. It's just that in which order you should study, how to manage the time management issue with the exam, what are the problems you could face for the exam. I have got nothing to do with the institute, nothing, no insider information. I cannot tell you what turns up in the exam and all. These are not what happens in exam tricks or something. These are global exams, very ethical, very credible, but I can tell you as to you will have time management issue this way, so take the do the exam this way, before the exam day do this. So all those things, how to take mock tests and all, how to focus, retain, etc. A lot of these things I've discussed in the about our classes lecture. So you see that and you'll understand, but this is the material. So all you need to do is order your Schweizer textbooks and you need to order the calculator. Rest everything is taken care of at our end. Right? So this is the study and material and all those that you require for both the part 1 and the part 2 exams. Comfortable? Sure?